Right, good morning everybody. So today I would like to make another video, talking about Sargon of Akkad and talking about liberalism and responding to Sargon of Akkad and a recent video that he did about liberalism and his fall from liberalism. I understand that this is the second video that I've done on the Sargon issue, and I understand that this may appear to be slightly obsessive and strange, so I'm going to recognize that fact right at the beginning of the video. Why then am I making the video? Well, simply because it inspires me, to be honest with you. Essentially, I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm at work, and you know, this one really just like this one grinds my gears. It just does. So you have to go where the passion is, and I'm quite passionate about this subject matter. Also, practically speaking, I know that I can post this on the Sargon timeline, right? And I know I'll get quite a few views for watching it, because that's the way people are. People like to watch videos about people talking about other people or responding to other people or etc. etc. That's just kind of the way the internet is. I did a brilliant video, I personally think one of my best videos, a few weeks ago, talking about Thomas Malthus and the principles of population. I feel like I really nailed it on that video. Did anybody watch it? No, people don't watch these things. They don't know like who wrote these old books, right? Who wrote these old books? I did a video once about Robert Filmer, Patriarcha. Who watched it? No one watched it. They don't know who writes these old books. They don't watch my video commentaries on books. They're not interested. They want to hear what my opinion is on Sargon or I don't know, the academic agent or Morgoth or Nick Fuentes or whatever. That's just what people want to listen to. So that's why I'm making the video. I just thought I'd say that right at the beginning. This is not a personal attack. I actually really like Sargon, and I've got a massive amount of respect for him, and I think he's done a really good job. I think he's a good guy. He's on the side of England. He's done a really good job of bringing people together on the Lotus Eaters and fighting the good fight and so on and so forth. Please do not take this to be a personal attack. I just really disagree. I really disagree on his turning away from liberalism. I think it's a massive mistake, and so I want to talk about it. And so I've actually taken notes on this one because I wanted to, instead of just rambling, I thought I'd try and actually get down to what he's saying. But in his video, I think it's called My Fall from Liberalism. I should probably find out what the video is actually called. Yeah, so the video is called My Fall from Liberalism. Okay, it's on his Sargon of Akkad channel. So in his video, he mentions that he is essentially responding to an article written by a journalist who is lamenting his fall from liberalism. In this article, the journalist apparently says that this has happened in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk. Sargon of Akkad points out that no, this is not the case. He's been turning away from liberalism for a long time. He mentions a book called Why Liberalism Failed, written by an Irish author called Patrick Deneen. He talks about another post-liberal called Yoram Hazony. And he says he basically feels like he's in the post-liberal space. Now, this is important right at the beginning. I need to mention this because so again, right at the beginning, sorry Sargon, but he doesn't define what liberalism is. He doesn't actually define what he's turning away from. And this is one of the big problems that we have on the internet. We have people arguing about isms, and they go on and on and on about this ism and that ism and this ist and that ist. You know, it could be capitalism, it could be socialism, it could be liberalism, it could be postmodernism, it could be whatever, you know, and they don't fully define what it is. So if you're going to say that you've given up on an ideology, can you first of all properly define what that ideology is and like make it clear what you actually are giving up? But I don't feel Sargon did this in this video, because I mean, just to double down on that point, because what you end up with is just flag waving. Okay, what you end up with is just flag waving, and what I mean by that is you just end up with intellectual football hooliganism. You end up with, I'm in this group over here and you're in that group over there, and so you're bad. I'm a capitalist and you're a socialist, so you're bad, right? I believe in liberalism and you don't, so you're bad. And it's this back and forth, and usually, like with capitalism and socialism, there's a Venn diagram, and there's a lot in the middle. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of I would define myself as a capitalism. I don't like these big terms, isms and ists. I don't like them. I think this lazy thinking. I think it's better to cut through it all and talk about the actual policies themselves. But whatever, we live in a world where people use these labels, so we got to go with it, right? But I would define myself as a capitalist, but I would absolutely agree with socialists and people on the left wing about various subject matters, like giant evil corporations destroying the world, okay? About the need for common land. There are some places in England which I think are very, very beautiful, and they have a shared common land, and the villagers can go there, and et cetera, et cetera. So I would agree with socialists on many, many points. But, I'm in the capitalist camp, therefore I'm evil, essentially. That's just, I guess it's just human psychology. It's the way things work. But you do end up with a lot of intellectual flag waving, which is why if you're going to make a video saying you're going to give up on liberalism, it's probably best to actually really clearly define what it is that what liberalism is. So we know what it is you're giving up. Sargon does not do this in his video. But he does say that he does mention this book, Why Liberalism Failed, by Patrick Deneen. And in this book, if you look at the Wikipedia page, I haven't read the book, Patrick Deneen makes it very clear that not only is he giving up on American liberalism, the modern day 20th century phenomenon of liberalism, which is essentially just sexual liberalism, multicultural liberalism. The word that we usually, when we're talking about liberals and how people hate liberals, that's what people are basically talking about. It's this American concept of the liberal. And what does that mean? It means you vote for the Democrat Party, you're in favor of massive immigration, and you are in favor of homosexuality and sexual madness, essentially, and you're woke, right? If you're a liberal, you're woke. It's the same thing. But in this book, Why Liberalism Failed, Patrick Deneen is not only rejecting that, he's also rejecting classical liberalism, what the Americans would call libertarianism. And this would just be like Victorian politics or revolutionary America. Like, it's constitutional America. It's the America of the Wild West. It's the England and the America of the 19th century. Okay, classical liberalism, libertarianism. In this book, he's rejecting that, and from what I've seen in the article, in this video that Sargon has given us, it seems that he's rejecting the whole thing. So all of it, all the way down to the roots, all the way down to John Locke, Sargon's throwing the whole thing in the bin. So let's just get that. Let's just get that clear right at the beginning, and I think it's a massive mistake. And here we have right at the beginning, just to make my first point here, an Irish guy and a Jew, Patrick Deneen and Yoram Hazony. Okay, rejecting liberalism. What a surprise! What a surprise! An Irish guy would turn against the ideology of the English. What a surprise that a Jewish guy would turn against the ideology of the English. The ideology that created the world's greatest empire, the ideology that dominated the world, the ideology that is the foundation stone for the Anglosphere. The Anglosphere is still the dominant political, economic, cultural force on this world to this very day, although it is crumbling all around us. And it may collapse very soon, but it still dominates. America still dominates, along with Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and England. We still dominate the world. The white English race, there's about 200 million of us in this world. We are still the dominant ethnicity on this world. And we are the greatest expression of European power. Europe conquered the world, but which empire did it best? The British Empire. And what was the ideology that they used? Liberalism. And what is Sargon rejecting now? Liberalism. And what is this Irish guy with a chip on his shoulder? What's he against? Liberalism. And the Jew, what's he against? Liberalism. So there is an ethnic war going on here. And people do not recognize it. And I don't know why not. And I should say, I got nothing against, well, I have got something against the Irish, but I don't fundamentally dislike the Irish. I like them, okay? We've been with them for a long time. Obviously, they're struggling now, and obviously I'm on their side, and they've got to get the foreigners out of their country, and so on and so forth. But let's be honest, there's a 1,000-year-old war between Anglo-Saxon and the Gaelic people. The Anglo-Saxon and the Celt. We've been fighting for a long time. And that's a reality. And unless you acknowledge that that exists and that is part of British culture or the story of this nation of ours, then you can't understand stuff like this. You can't really understand. You've got to always take a double check. Scroll down, look at the early life. Is this person Irish or not? Right? I'm sorry. We all know you've got to scroll down and have a look at see if they're Jewish. Fine. You've also got to scroll down and look and see if they're Irish or not. Because they fucking hate us. To this day they hate us. And the Scottish hate us too. Even Count Dankula. Again, I like Count Dankula. He wants Scotland to be independent. He's not on our side. Okay, when the English football team plays, he'll be cheering for the team that's playing against us. This is the way it is. These people don't like us, and so they're attacking our political ideology. They are attacking liberalism, which they quite rightly see to be English. They see it to be our way of life and our way of doing things, and they want to tear it down. And I mean, I should mention here that Ramsay MacDonald, first Prime Minister of the Labour Party, okay, Scottish. Obviously, Scottish people are Irish. They're Gaelic. You should know this by now. I should mention Ramsay MacDonald's the guy who first Prime Minister of the Labour Party. He recognised the Soviet state, essentially. Before that time, the Soviet state was essentially a terrorist state. Like their government had not been recognised. He brought them into the world, so to speak, and enabled the Americans. Because obviously, I'm going on a tangent here, but it's America that built the Soviet Union, right? They gave them all the money to build themselves up and to industrialize themselves. And they also rescued them after they got wrecked in the Second World War. So there would be no powerful Soviet Union if it wasn't for America giving them all their wealth, right? But how were the Americans able to do that? Obviously, we, the Brits, we were the superpower of the time. Ramsay MacDonald recognized the Soviet Union as a nation and saved them. And this is a Scot, right? Fabian Society member, I'm sure. David Lloyd George, Welshman. He gave Ireland away, and he specifically had a chip on his shoulder in that regard. So there's two great enemies of the British Empire, right? A Welshman and a Scottishman doing great harm to us. Tony Blair was Scottish. People don't really think of him in that way, but they should. I mean, I remember they used to joke about this a lot in that old television series. What was it called? The Thick of It. Everybody should watch The Thick of It. It's absolutely hilarious, but it's all about politics in the Blair era, and it's repeatedly noted that like everybody there is Scottish, right? So anyhow, you got and Labour obviously allies themselves with the Welsh, Plaid, Cymru, and all the rest of it. They ally themselves with these people. Everybody knows. So we have a political alliance between the Labour Party and the Welsh and the Scots, and against us. This is the reality of our situation. You have to recognise this. So when Sargon is reading a book which is saying why liberalism failed, and it's written by an Irish guy, you should take a double take in your mind. Oh, what's going on here? Irish guy, anti-English, hates the ideology of the English, wants to tear us down. People may think I'm crazy for saying this. I mean, I don't know, but I just think people need to recognize there are warring ethnicities within our white nation. There are warring white ethnicities within our white nation. If we don't recognize this, then we can't fix this country. Classic point, the Northerners, The Northerners have destroyed this country. There is a meme on the internet about the based Northerner. Northerners are not based. Northerners are idiots, and they've destroyed the country. They are the ones that always elect the Labour Party, and the Labour Party is the driving force of destruction in this country. The Labour Party always accelerates the destruction of this country, and then the Tory Party maintains it. Now, when I say this, people are going to oh, you're a Tory boy. They're going to say to me, you're a Tory boy. You're defending the Tory Party. Oh, look at you. I hate the Tory Party. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I hate them. They are a party of traitors. In many ways, you could say they're worse than the Labour Party. At least when you vote for the Labour Party, you know you're going to get Islamic communism, right? You know that's what you're going to get. So at least they're honest in a way. Whereas with the Tory Party, they say they're going to fix things and then they don't. So they're dishonest. So in many ways, from a moral perspective, they're worse because they're traitors. So I understand this. I understand the Tory Party is the party of transgenderism. The entire transgender agenda was rolled out under their watch. I understand that they are the party of the grooming gangs. Again, uncovered under their watch. And what did they do? I understand the Boris wave happened obviously under the Tory Party. So they're not good people. But nonetheless, the dynamic seems to be that, the Labour Party accelerates the destruction and the Tory Party maintains it. And although the leadership of the Tory Party is absolute scum, I would argue that the members of the Tory Party aren't that bad. If you were given the choice of, do you want to go to the pub with a group of Labour Party members or a group of Tory Party members, who would you go to the pub with? I'd go with the Tory Party members, because they're the people that love the Union Jack, the British Empire, and tradition, and Churchill, and the Victorians, and all the rest of it. They love England. They've just got terrible leaders. Whereas people that join the Labour Party are just complete scum. They're the worst, most awful people I've ever met. And I've met some of them. I've worked with some of them. And they're genuinely awful people. So I think both parties are destroying the country, but they're destroying them. One party destroys it quickly and the other party destroys it slowly. And the Tories did give us Brexit. Sorry, I know they didn't want to, but they did, and the backbenchers forced it through, and we are no longer part of the European Union now because of the Tories. So anyway, the point being, my dear friends, there is an ethnic war. So you have the people up north, they don't like the south. And there's ancient reasons for this. But nonetheless, there's always just been a divide. In the current age, it's because they don't like Margaret Thatcher, so they're never going to vote for Tories. So what is the political solution to the problem is in our country? Well, the political solution is down south, vote Tory, up north, vote for reform. Or before that, you could have voted for Brexit. Or before that, you could have voted for UKIP. And then we would have a country in which it's Rishi Sunak versus Nigel Farage in Parliament. Would that not be a better country? I would feel a lot safer if that is what we had. Or Farage versus Rishi. And obviously, I don't like Farage and I don't like Rishi Sunak. They're idiots. All the politicians are idiots. But unfortunately, Hitchens was right. You vote for the lesser evil. You vote for the guy that is an idiot, but he's not as bad as Keir Starmer. That's what you do. But on the internet, because it's full of Northerners and in dissident right politics on the internet, because it's full of Northerners and it's full of Scots and it's full of Welsh, they just pile on and on and on with hatred of the Tories, which is a hatred of the South, which is a hatred of capitalism, which is a hatred of liberalism, and a hatred of individualism. These are the political divisions of our country. I'm sorry. It's like the South is right-wing, the North and the Celtic countries are left-wing. The South is capitalist, the North is socialist. This is what's going on. Okay, so the whole idea that when election time comes around and people just say, oh, you should vote Tory or you should vote Reform or whatever, is actually stupid. It really just depends on what part of the country you live in. And I did say all this. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. I did say all this before last year's election, but there you go. Embarrassingly enough, in the end, I voted for Reform, and I regret it. I should have voted Tory, and I think Farage just split the vote, to be honest with you. But the real path out of our misery would have been for the North to vote Reform, and the whole country would be different now. And I mentioned it. I said this many times, and nobody listened because people are blind to the racial conflict, between white people in this country, and it's got to be addressed. So anyway, that's my first point. Okay, bit of a ramble, but I don't even know if I'm going to get through all my notes here, to be honest with you, because I got stuck on this first point. But nonetheless, people need to be aware of this. People need to be aware when you see an Irish man or a Scottish man or a Northerner and they're complaining about liberalism, really they just hate the South. That's why. That's what's going on. That's part of what's going on. And I've got Northern friends, so I have Mercian on my channel. I allow Mercian to come. I gracefully allow Mercian to come on my channel, and talk about the news every week. So I'm trying to help the Northerners, trying to dig them up out of their hole. But that's what's going on, guys. You have to check the early life, and you have to check what's going on. So the underlying point that I'm trying to make is that liberalism is the ideology of the English. And so when Sargon says he's rejecting liberalism, he's rejecting the ideology of the English. He's turning against his own country. And by the way, you can fast forward to the conclusion of his video. He doesn't even know what we're going to replace it with. He doesn't even know. So it's like, what are you talking about, mate? You want to tear up all of our political books, our entire ideology, the entire philosophical system on which our country is based. You just want to tear it all up and throw it in a bin, and you don't even know what we're supposed to follow it with. You don't even know what's going to replace it. This is psychopathic. This is insane. I mean, this is just really, really dumb. Am I crazy for pointing this out? Am I the crazy person? This is just negative thinking. It's a very Irish way of thinking about things. Again, the Irish. They've got a chip on their shoulder. They hate the English. That's all they know. Their entire ideology is built on a hatred of the English. They don't even know who they are. It's intrinsic within their identity, because geographically speaking, England as an island, we shelter them. So we've fought wars against the Spanish and the French and the Germans, and we've essentially defended the we didn't do it on purpose, but geographically we defended the Irish. The Irish have never had to fight against the Spanish or the Germans or the French. They've never had to deal with these people because they've been shielded by us. And so they've only ever had one enemy for 1,000 years. They've only had one enemy, the English. And so from father to son, generation after generation, it's all the English, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and you end up with this incredibly negative culture which only knows how to destroy. And so here comes Sargon. Let's tear down liberalism. Let's destroy it. And replace it with what, Sargon? Oh, I don't know. I just know that I hate it. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You've got a bunch of Irish people whispering in your ear. It's stupid. And the Zero Seats meme was the same thing. The Zero Seats meme was an accelerationist meme. Oh, tear it down, destroy it. Tear down the Tories. We hate the Tories. Okay, great. Now we've got a psychopathic Islamic communist government which is destroying everything. And why? I don't know how much influence Twitter has on the everyday voting habits of people. I imagine it has some influence. It's hard to say how much damage Sargon and his cronies did in that election, but nonetheless, they didn't help, did they? Because the intelligent thing to do in that election would have been to vote Tory in the south and vote Reform up north. That would have been a positive message. The message should have been, let's destroy the Labour Party. Why doesn't anybody ever say this? Why is it we've always got to destroy the Tory Party? The last bastion of defence against this madness. No, let's destroy the Labour Party. Let's do that. No, nobody ever says that. Why? Because internet politics is full of Northerners and it's full of Scottish people and they hate the South. And that's what's going on. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry if that upsets you, but that's what I feel, and it's accelerationism, and it's negative, and there's an Irishness to it, and it's anti-English, and Sargon's fallen in with this, and obviously you have other elements as well. So you have fascism, again promoted by secret neo-Nazis. You got your Morgoth, who, by the way, a Northerner, and by the way, also Irish. So an Irish Northerner. Again, I'm not trying to make a personal attack here. I'm sure he's a good guy and he cares about white people and so on and so forth, right? But he is Irish and he is a Northerner. And he does love Adolf Hitler. And he does, he's not a capitalist, is he? He's not an individualist. He believes in collectivism. So he's essentially a socialist. And so they want some kind of socialism. That's what these people want. And so you've got this influence constantly pushing, oh, the British Empire, what a waste of time that was. Oh, capitalism, oh, we should have a socialist government, blah, blah, blah. Pushing. You've got Melania Woes, a Scottish guy. He don't fucking like us. He doesn't like us. Hello? Right? Hanging out with people like Keith Woods, an Irish guy. Like, they don't fucking like us, guys. Can you wake up? So you've got this influence on the internet, this socialist influence, this Nazi influence, pushing against capitalism and pushing against individualism and pushing against liberalism. You've got that. And then on the other hand, all the way over across the pond in America, you've got Elon Musk, and the PayPal mafia, Peter Thiel, and what do these guys want? These guys want to create a technocracy. They want to create a technocracy. They want single world digital government. Musk is very clear. He wants UBI, universal basic income. I don't know what he said about digital ID. I don't seem to see him pushing against it. He doesn't have any problem bringing in H-1B visas. Bringing in a bunch of Indians on H-1B visas. He doesn't have a problem with that. So he's not really right-wing at all. In fact, I'm incredibly suspicious about the guy. I like the things he says in defense of England and in defense of white people and the birth rates. It's good. But then he says one thing and then he brings in a bunch of Indians on the other hand. And does he give any money? He's this huge billionaire. How much money has he given to pro-white charities? Okay, so I don't want to be ungrateful. He's given us some freedom of speech on Twitter. But why has he done it? Has he done it just because he wants, people on the right to embrace UBI? I don't know. I'm incredibly suspicious. But I would argue there are these two forces within the dissident right, within the internet right. You've got the fascist force, you've got the technocracy force. Both of them are against liberalism. They're against individualism. They're against the British Empire. They're against the Anglosphere. They're against libertarianism. And they want to tear it down. And they give a nudge. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a tinfoil hat crazy guy. But I just feel like they've captured Sargon. Okay? I feel like they've captured him. And I feel like, I haven't read the article that this journalist has written that Sargon's responded to, but I think he's right. Sargon used to hold the line and he's gone. He's been taken away by the forces of evil. He's been turned, he was a great defender of liberalism. But he's not anymore because he wants to be cool, right? Because if you're on the internet, you want to be cool, you've got to be like, into Adolf Hitler or into Bronze Age perverts or whatever. Right? You can't defend liberalism. Ugh, that's not cool. Okay, great. So tear down the ideology of the English race. Fantastic. because it is our ideology. And the story of the English people is the story of the quest for liberty. That's what it is. We, as Anglo-Saxons, obviously we come originally from Denmark, right? We're Germanic people. The Germanic people had a certain sense of liberty. Obviously they wouldn't have called it libertarianism, but they used to get together in a thing. And this word has been preserved in our language as a husting, a house thing. But they used to have meetings. This is in the Heimskringla, written by Snorri Sturluson, the history of the kings of Norway. If you read it again and again and again, they meet with the people, and the people have a voice. So the people, our Germanic pagan ancestors are accustomed to having a certain freedom and a certain liberty. In fact, I would argue Europe itself was always divided. You have the free Germans of the north fighting against the tyranny of the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire was a slave empire, and there was a war between the plebs and the patricians. In fact, I'm reading Livy. You can read the history of the early history of Rome by Livy, and again, it's just conflict after conflict after conflict between plebs and patricians, as the plebs just try to gain some kind of freedom from their basically almost slavery. So I would argue that our Germanic ancestors were free, they had some liberty, and then of course Hengist and Horsa brought the Anglo-Saxons over here, and we had this Anglo-Saxon culture. And then William the Bastard conquered us, and he brought the Jews over, and he plunged us into tyranny. And the story of the Anglo-Saxon, the story of the English people, has been the ongoing rebellion against Norman tyranny. It's been 1,000 years of this, 1,000 years of struggling for our ancient liberty. Robin Hood, one of our greatest heroes, what was he fighting for? He was fighting against Norman tyranny. So this is what we've been fighting for. This is the story of our people. It's also an anthropological fact that we just did things in a different way in this country. Again and again and again in this channel, I'm always talking about Alan McFarlane and the origins of English individualism. And the fact is that in our culture, we always had the man of the house would have absolute ownership over the land, and so he could alienate his sons, basically. So the son would always leave home at about 14, go and work, and then buy his own land, and then get a wife, and then repeat the cycle. This is different to other nations in the world in which they have communal ownership of the land. It's a totally different system. When you have communal ownership of the land, then the sons do not have to leave and go out and work and make their own way in life. They just sit at home. And there isn't a land market. So you don't have a land market, and you don't have a labour market. You don't have the origins of capitalism. So very important concepts that have got to be understood. Our society has always been individualistic, because men leave home and they go out and they do their own thing and get by their own land, and they own their own land, and it's always been capitalistic. That's the Anglo-Saxon way of doing things. And all of that leans towards liberalism, because we don't like to get pushed around. Essentially, we don't like this communal living. We've always had nuclear families. We don't have large extended clan-like families. That's not the Anglo-Saxon way of doing things, and Sargon knows this. And yet he's rejected liberalism. Why? I don't know. I don't think he's thought this through properly. But it seems to me to be very clear that socialism appeals to people who want that kind of communal lifestyle. And capitalism and liberalism appeals to people who want the Anglo-Saxon way of doing things. And it all boils down to, does the father have ownership of the land or not? Is the father capable of alienating his son from the land or not? If he is, then you have capitalism and individualism and liberalism. And if he is not, then you have socialism and collectivism and communism, essentially. And a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy. Because that's the way things end up in all these countries. It's always the women that end up running these things. So it's a clash. It's a culture. It's a fundamental anthropological culture clash. I mean, that's the way I see it anyway. So, and it's a culture clash between, obviously in this country, like the Celts, they lean more towards the clan structure, and us, the Anglo-Saxons, we lean towards the Anglo-Saxon nuclear family way of doing things. And Sargon knows all of this. And yet he's rejected liberalism. So the point I'm trying to make is, our story, the story of the English, has always been the story of the quest for liberty against Norman tyranny, and it's always been a quest. It's rooted in our anthropology. It's rooted in the way that we do things. It's rooted in the nuclear family, essentially. And so it's very, very foolish to turn against this. Even in like modern day terms, like. What's Sargon going to say to the people of England? Oh, we don't want liberty. No, we don't want liberty. We don't want freedom anymore. Who's going to rally behind that? You see? And Sargon in response would say, well, I'm not saying I don't want liberty. Well, what do you think libertarianism means? Again, you haven't defined the term properly. You haven't thought this through. What is the alternative to libertarianism? Well, let me think. Absolute monarchy. Feudalism, right? I mean, that's what liberalism is. It's a rejection of feudalism. Historically, that is what it is. Go onto the Wikipedia. Look at the mainstream definition of liberalism. It's a rejection of the monarchy. It's a rejection of the overbearing power of the king and the church. Okay, it's freedom of speech. It's freedom of religion. It's ownership of property. Again, going back to the anthropological point. The father owns the land. It's property rights. John Locke, the father of liberalism, modern day liberalism, the father of libertarianism. Some say the early founding father of America. All about property rights. Who owns the land? That's what it's all about. So you want to reject that? You want to reject private property, Sargon? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Oh, we're going to find an alternative. I don't know what it is. What are you talking about? What on earth is going on here? Do you just want to look cool on the internet? Oh, look at me. I'm such a rebel. I've rejected liberalism. What the fuck? Oh my God. Anyway, look, again, I make these videos, maybe it seems like I'm a bit too harsh in these videos. I just get excited. I get animated. I like Sargon, I really do. But it's just, man, this is so dumb. So I'm just going to try and look at my notes because I want to respond, instead of me just ranting, I want to try to respond to what Sargon actually said. Yeah, so one of the points he said was that communism is a variant of liberalism. I don't really see how that's true. And he says, it's because of principles, but he doesn't, core principles or whatever, but he doesn't explain what those core principles are. He doesn't explain how communism is a variant of liberalism. You could say it descended, like historically. First we had liberalism and then communism appeared. Okay. You could say it's an extension of egalitarianism in a way, taking egalitarianism to an extreme. Okay, but it doesn't exactly lay out the details. It seems to me communism is opposed to liberalism because liberalism is about the ownership of private property, and communism is against that. So, not really clear how communism is a variant of liberalism. I don't really understand what Sargon's trying to say there. He says that liberalism offers the dissolution of all bonds of society in place, right? So basically he's blaming all of the ills of the modern world on liberalism, like the mass immigration, it's the fault of liberalism. The transgender thing is the fault of liberalism. Like the push towards a global government, it's the fault of liberalism. Well, is it really? Really, I would say it's a lack of liberalism, to be honest with you. It's a lack of democratic accountability that's given us all of that, to be perfectly honest with you. No, I don't think you can blame it on liberalism. I think you can blame it on cultural Marxism and communism and feminism and all of these things. But they're not intrinsic to liberal thought. We used to be a very, very nationalistic country, and we were liberals. Okay? Australia used to have a white-only immigration policy. Were they communists at the time? Were they fascists at the time? Was Australia a monarchy? Well, I guess it was a monarchy, I suppose, but you know what I mean. Was there some king down in Australia saying no, brown people should come in here? No, it was they were a liberal nation. They had elections. I mean, this is the other point, by the way, because I was edging onto this earlier. I'm just remembering here. Sargon's made another video recently on Lotus Eater's podcast or whatever it is, and he sits down with Dan, and they're talking about British politics, right? And they have an hour-long conversation talking about the rise of the Green Party and how Labour's not going to do well in the next election. Apparently Labour's going to get like 4 seats in the next election, and blah, 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 blah. Why is Sargon having this conversation? Why? If Sargon says that he doesn't believe in liberalism, then why is he even talking about democracy? He has no right. He has no right to do it. I'm sorry. But if you don't believe in liberalism, it means you don't believe in democracy, do you? So what are you even talking about? What are you even doing? It's like on the one hand, you make a video, oh yeah, I'm not into liberalism anymore. I'm really cool now. I'm with the cool kids on the internet. And I'm against liberalism. And I don't know what we're going to replace it with, but I know that I hate it because my Irish friend told me it's rubbish. Okay, great. But then straight away you sit down and you have a long conversation about British politics and who's going to get elected in the next general election. What are you talking about? The general election is democracy, and democracy is founded on liberalism. So theoretically, in your mind, in Sargon's esoteric philosophical mind, he's rejected liberalism, but in practicality, he's still playing the game. He's still going along with it. He's still going to vote in the next election. So what are we even talking about here, guys? This is just like some navel-gazing, political, like philosophical mishmash nonsense. It's a load of nonsense. If you really want to reject liberalism, then you have to go extreme far right, and you have to say, well, I don't believe in democracy, and we should have a revolution, and a king should rise, or whatever it is. That should be the only position that you take, and there are plenty of people on the internet that do take that position. So go ahead, Sargon, go and join them. You don't really have a right to talk about politics anymore. I'm sorry, and I'm actually quite... That may sound like an arsehole saying this, but I have an experience. I was working in a factory during the lockdown. This guy turns up. He's a bit of a snob, a bit of an idiot. Thought he was really clever, right? And I'm talking to him, and he says, oh, I'm a libertarian. He says, I'm a libertarian. And I'm like, oh, right, you're a libertarian. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, what do you think about the lockdowns? Right? And he says, oh, I don't know. It's difficult. I said, what are you talking about, mate? What are you talking about? You're prancing around the place, calling yourself a libertarian, right? You like the sound of the word, I suppose. You think it makes you sound clever to tell people in a factory that you're a libertarian. Because let's be honest, most people in the factory have no idea what that is, right? Most people out there don't know that much about politics. So if you go up to them, like working class people, I'm sorry, but it's true. You go up to the average working class pleb and you say, I'm a libertarian. They'll think it's impressive, right? So you're working in this factory, telling people that you're a libertarian, making yourself look clever, But then you think that lockdowns are okay. You think that a totally psychotic authoritarian government shutting down small businesses because grandma might get the flu, you think that's okay. Well, you're not a libertarian then, are you? You're actually, so you don't deserve to call yourself that. And this goes not only for that idiot in the factory, but for a whole host of organizations that, the Adam Smith Institute or whatever, that were all in favor of the lockdowns. So they present themselves as being in favor of liberty. Piers Morgan, right? Oh, I believe in free speech. Take the vaccine. You're right. I believe in English liberty. Take the vaccine. You don't deserve to call yourself a libertarian, okay? You are an authoritarian and you should claim that. In a similar way, if Sargon's going to make a video saying he's rejected liberalism, he doesn't deserve to talk about electoral politics anymore. You don't deserve to do it, mate. You've given up on electoral politics, in case you haven't noticed. So I feel quite strongly about that. But anyway, I want to keep this video short, and I want to talk about some interesting points. Yeah, so one point I want to address is the point of the state of nature and the social contract. Obviously, these are founding principles of liberalism. This is what John Locke talked about. So the idea being that we lived in a state of nature, everything was nasty, brutish, and short, and so people get together, they have a social contract, and they form a government. Hobbes was in favour of a king. Locke was in favour of some kind of democratic government. Okay, but that's the agreement that brings people together. So Sargon is quite right to say that this kind of has never happened. Like this is an idea. Like the state of nature is an unproven thing that never happened, and the social contract never actually happened. So it's a theoretical. You've created this theoretical idea as the foundation, as the philosophical foundation of our political system, but it's a thing that never happened. So he's quite right to point this out. This is a great flaw and a weakness. My attitude, and my attitude to all of liberalism, by the way, is that we need to fix it. This is the point I'm trying to get across in this video. Liberalism is English. It's our ideology. Instead of throwing it in the dustbin to replace it with something else, as I say, Sargon doesn't know what he wants to replace it with. We should fix it, and we should create an ethno-liberalism. This is going to be my new... I'm going to put this on my Twitter bio, okay? We need an ethno-liberalism. We need to fix this thing instead of chucking it all in the bin. Because if you want to chuck it all in the bin, you've got to chuck away 400 years or 500 years of political thought. And it's interwoven into the fabric of our society, and I just don't think that's a good idea. So how do we fix the social contract? I would argue Aethelstan. Aethelstan was the first king of the English, and we accepted him as our king because he united the country and he defended us against, I think he defended against the Scottish, or was it, I think, the Vikings in part. He fought a massive battle against the Vikings, which kind of confirmed him as king. So there you go. That's the social contract right there. All right, I've grounded the social contract in history. We had chaos. We had different Anglo-Saxon kings fighting against each other. They were united by Aethelstan. He is the uniter of the country. There's your social contract. It was made a long, long time ago when Aethelstan was crowned King of England. So that would be my argument. Another problem, of course, Sargon doesn't really go into the ethnicity that he doesn't really lean into it in this video, but obviously one problem is that Locke and all these other writers, they weren't ethno-nationalists, or they didn't describe things in ethnic terms. But Locke himself went to America and he wrote the Constitution of Carolina, I think it is, and they had slaves, and he never said anything about it. So, and to my understanding, Locke, I mean, everyone was aware that they had slaves in America at that time. Locke never talked about freeing the slaves. So when he was talking about liberty, it was liberty for white English men. I don't think he even ever talked about giving women the votes. I mean, I think the idea just never even occurred to him thank God. So, I mean, I may be wrong about that. I don't know. I'll have to check. But the problem is Locke was implicitly racist instead of explicitly racist. This is the problem. It wasn't made explicit. So we just have to make it explicit. We have to just say it's English liberty for English people. So this is the point. But anyway, the point I want to make is, like, Sargon in this video, he's saying, oh, you know, the liberals, they want to bring us back into some Garden of Eden type state of nature. So we have all the freedoms of the state of nature, but under a government. Like, I don't know where he's getting this from. This sounds like some Jewish Kabbalistic idea. I don't know that much about the Kabbalah, but my understanding is that the Jews want to bring us back to the Garden of Eden. That's what a lot of this utopian ideology is all about. The Garden of Eden is the paradise on earth. It is the communist paradise on earth, and we get to walk around naked, and it's an anarchy. That's what Karl Marx wants to build. Karl Marx obviously being a Jew, right? So I don't really see that. I don't really see that being Locke's idea. I don't know. I guess you could read these things into it, but I don't see it. My understanding of the state of nature and the social contract is that the men give their sovereignty to the king. And what does it mean to give your sovereignty to the king? It means you give the king the right of life and death. So you give the king the ability to execute bad people. That's what it's about. It's about sovereignty. It's not about creating some, like, Garden of Eden utopia. I don't know where Sargon's getting this idea from. But then, of course, I mean, it's the thing, again, with an ism. Okay, it's a broad church. I'm sure there are lots of writers who've written lots of things and lots of ideas and all kind of muddled together. So you can, I guess, create your own version of liberalism in your mind and attack that, I suppose. Right? I mean, Sargon says he wants to write a book and he's got all the quotes. Okay, so I mean, you can do that, but it just sounds like a massive straw man to me. And he would say, well, it's not a straw man. I've got all the evidence. And it's like, okay, but I mean, maybe you could find the quotes to say that this is what's going on. You know, liberalism is leading towards some kind of brown utopia. I just don't see it in that way. And I don't think it's wise to see it in that way, because I see liberalism as being the ideology of the English. So why would you want to tear it down by straw manning it in that way? Better to fix it so we can carry on. So that's how I would fix the social contract and the state of nature. I would make it very clear that we need to create an ethno-liberalism. I mean, we have a strong history of this. As I said, Australia, white-only immigration. We have the Trail of Tears. We have Andrew Jackson kicking all the Indians out. America was an extraordinarily racist place, and that is it's literally a libertarian nation. So we have been very, very racist at the same time that we've been libertarian or classical liberals. So it's not impossible for these two ideologies to fit together. I don't see why Sargon is pretending that they can't. It seems to me to be very dishonest. Of course, Sargon will say, well, John Locke supported the tabula rasa theory of mind, so the blank slate theory of mind. Okay, he did, but lots of others didn't. Herbert Spencer didn't. So some liberals may see things that way, but I don't think the blank slate theory of mind is intrinsic to liberalism. Liberalism is about the rule of law and the right to vote and freedom of speech. I don't think it really rests upon a theory of mind. Perhaps communism does, but not liberalism. Again, I mean, this is the problem when you're talking about a school of thought, right? Because many different interpretations. This is one of the problems. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it just turns into this tribalistic chest beating, my group against your group, blah 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 blah, right? But one final point, I want to keep this video at an hour. I should have addressed this half an hour ago. I've been kind of avoiding it. But one of the main drives of Sargon's video is that he He's talking about Immanuel Kant. He's talking about the categorical imperative. He's implying that you can't have a good system of morality in liberalism. And he talks about morality being relational, in that you should be, I suppose he doesn't phrase it in this way, but for what I understand of what he's saying, he seems to be presenting an idea for a more of a feudalistic morality, as in like you be loyal to your parents, because he talks about this, you should phone your mum up, right? So he's talking about a morality in which loyalty to the family is more important than the laws of the nation. It's a very interesting point, actually. And I should have addressed it earlier so that we could have talked about it a bit more. But, yeah. The Enlightenment obviously has legalized everything. And, yes, it's fair to say that liberalism promotes the rule of law above loyalty to the family. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And I don't think it leads to a brown utopia in the way that Sargon is saying it does. And I don't think it leads to the ultimate undermining of all of morality. It's actually kind of the core drive of his entire video. I've completely stepped over it and missed it. So I guess I'll have to make another video and think about that and talk about that, because we've only got about 4 minutes left. But so I kind of ballsed it all up. I've messed it all up. This video's messed up. But anyway, I just don't agree. I don't agree that liberalism leads to immorality. I do agree that it leads to rule of law. I do agree that it leads to that it's a rejection of feudalism. But I don't want to live in a feudalistic society. I don't want to have to be loyal to a king or a lord of the manor. I don't think that's a good way to live. Now, I want to make it very clear that part of the reason I'm saying this is because of modern day technology. If I lived in ancient times, I would have 100% accepted Alexander the Great as my king, right? And I would have marched with him, and I would have followed his word as law. Same goes for Genghis Khan. Same goes for many of the great kings of that age, right? Of ancient times or whatever. In my opinion, if you are a warrior king and you go into battle with your men, and you are a brave and virtuous and honourable warrior of that sort, then you deserve to be the king. You deserve to be the hero. And you deserve to be above the law, so to speak. And I would be happy. I would be more than happy to live in such a society. It would be a great honour to live in such a society with such men. But, unfortunately, we don't live in that age. We live in an age of technology. We live in an age of electricity and computers and so on and so forth. And technology is an arms race. It always has been. And the kings of our nation, the politicians of our nation, do not charge into battle anymore. They don't do it because they get shot. It's just not practical. And so they stay behind lines, and they send the young men to die for them. And in such a state of affairs, I do not think it's fair for these old men who rule over us to have such power. I don't think it's fair. So one of the reasons why I support liberalism and democracy is because we just don't live in the ancient world anymore. And it's because of technology. And that's just the way it is. And it's going to be that way until the whole thing collapses. And I don't know if it will, but I'm sure it will at some time. I think Ted Kaczynski was right. I recently made a video about Ted Kaczynski, and YouTube deleted it straight away. Quite incredible. So I think YouTube is afraid of Ted Kaczynski. I think it's terrified because Ted Kaczynski was right. But there are so many things I wanted to say here. I think maybe I'll make another video where I'll talk about morality and Immanuel Kant, because that was really the main drive of Sargon's video, and I kind of just, didn't address that point. But I don't. I do believe in virtue ethics. What I was saying in brief is that I do believe in virtue ethics, and I do believe that the Anglo-Saxon liberalism, our method of government, does create virtuous men, because in the Anglo-Saxon system you would leave home at 14, you would work, you would buy land, and then you get a wife, and then you repeat the cycle. And so it is a masculine, individualistic way of living. And liberalism breeds an individualism in this way. It's like the cowboys in the Wild West. It breeds strong men that stand on their own 2 feet. The nuclear family breeds strong men. Like they're not part of a clan. They don't have to listen to their uncle or whatever, or their cousins or whatever. No, they're men that stand alone against the world. This is what our society has always created, which is why we're the greatest individualistic thinkers on this world. This is why we break so many boundaries and we march forward and we conquered the world and we explored everything. We built all this fantastic technology. It's because men are told to stand on their own 2 feet and to look after themselves. And communal societies don't do that. And you can see this practically in any third world country, and I've seen it myself. Like the lazy son just sits there and he's playing on his phone, and he's all right. He'll be okay. He'll get looked after by, his mum and his auntie and his grandma and all his cousins and whatever. He lives in a collectivist way. He has a collectivist style of living. It's okay. It's cozy and it's comfy. It doesn't create great men though. So I would argue that liberalism and the individualistic way of living creates great men. It creates virtue. You own your own land, and you have freedom of speech, and you have the right to vote, and so on and so forth. And it does encourage virtue. But I mean, perhaps it's fair to say that in the liberal tradition, recently things have tilted towards utilitarianism. Or maybe Immanuel Kant with his categorical imperative has had too much influence on liberal thought. Yeah, maybe that's fair to say. But again, my feeling with this video is that instead of tearing the whole thing up and throwing it away, we should fix it. Fix liberalism. Create a new theory of liberalism that is ethno-nationalist and pushes back against all of this stuff, right? Instead of just tearing, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And yeah, just to end this, before I just go rambling on for another hour, and just to end, we've just seen Bulgaria's just overthrown their government, so that's interesting. They marched on Parliament, they overthrew the government. This is what I've been advocating for. We need a march on Parliament. We need to demand a general election. I think it's very fair and it's very reasonable. And it's the only thing that we can do. It's the only power that we as a mob have. So, this is our only option now. The people of this country have chosen accelerationism. They chose to vote for the Labour Party. We now have an Islamic communist party ruling over us. It's completely psychopathic and it's destroying everything. I do not know if we will make it to 2029 at this rate. And our only option, as far as I can see it, is to march on Parliament and demand a general election. In order to do that, we have to believe in democracy and we have to believe in liberty. And I think that direct democracy is the real end conclusion of liberalism. I think Rousseau was right. I don't really like Rousseau. I mean, some of the things... I read his book, The Social Contract. It didn't really jive with me, I've got to be honest with you. And I don't like the look on his face. So I'm not really a huge fan of his. But he's the guy that said direct democracy is the path forward. And Switzerland picked up his ideas and they've created a utopia in the mountains, as far as I'm concerned. So I think direct democracy is the path forward. That's the way out of this mess. I don't think you're going to encourage the people of this world to support fascism or technocracy because everybody in this world believes in liberalism now. It is the dominant ideology of our world. So how about you just give us more voting? Let the mob speak. Let the natural prejudice of the people come out. And it's my opinion, if the natural prejudices of the people come out, then everything will swerve towards normality. Why? Because most people want to get married and they want to have kids and they want to own a house. So family values will rule. That's the wisdom of the mob. The mob does not want transgenderism. The mob does not want homosexuality in the schools. The mob does not want mass immigration. The mob does not want Afghanis being flown over here secretly so they can rape 12-year-olds. The mob does not want this. And if the mob were to march on Parliament every year, as I advocate, every single year we march on Parliament, every single year we have a general election, every single year we have a big stick and we threaten the government with it. If we had this in this country, then we could fix everything. That's my belief, and that's what I think is the way out of this mess. But Sargon can't see this anymore because he's rejected liberalism. So now he's navel-gazing with his really smart philosophical friends on the internet. Okay, he's probably going to read Julius Evola. I like to pick on Julius Evola. But he's going to read another book by Julius Evola and watch another video by Jonathan Bowden and talk about, how at some point in the future things will change. No, let's just march on Parliament, actually, and demand a general election. Let's just do that. That's our way out of this mess. I don't know what miracle people are waiting for, to be honest with you. So there you go. I'm going to end it there. As I say, I kind of didn't really directly address the categorical imperative. I think Sargon's wrong to imagine that Kantian morality is the foundation of liberalism. I just don't see it like that. Liberalism is all about property rights. It's not about the blank slate theory of mind, and it's not about the categorical imperative. It is about absolute ownership of the land so that you can alienate your son. And that's the old Anglo-Saxon way of living. And it is democracy. And as I say, you've got no right to talk about Farage and reform. If you've rejected liberalism, you've got no right to talk about these subject matters. If you're going to make a video saying that you don't believe in liberalism, what are you talking about, right? You have to find a different path in life. So the whole thing's a little bit silly. But yeah, let's fix it instead of throwing it all away. Sargon, mate. I mean, if you're listening, if you made it through this rant, then come on the show. Come and chat to me. We're going to have a private chat. We could do a 1 hour chit chat. That would be nice. Yeah, talk about these things. But anyway, there you go. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Thank you. Goodbye.